the only gyro video you will ever need. What's going on, guys? This is Riggs, and welcome back to another PUBG Mobile video. Now, I've heard you guys loud and clear in the comment section and also in the live streams. Riggs, where is the gyro tips and tricks video? We even got Bushka playing on phone. He's trying to learn gyro, so what better time than now than to put out the end-all to all gyro videos. Okay, so who is this video for? It's for quite a few people. First one is people who are transitioning from, whether it's just thumbs only, no gyro, whether you're going from four-finger claw and you're trying to transition over to gyro, but anybody who's not playing gyro, who has the idea or who's wanted to go ahead and make the switch. Also, new gyro players. One of the biggest things, especially when I first switched over, is not really having a guide. Especially, it's very difficult to find a guide in English on YouTube, playing this game. So for new gyro players who are looking for actual settings, tips, and tricks, mistakes that I've made along the way, that I've learned from, that you would be able to learn from, that way you don't repeat them and make the process even more difficult like it was for me first starting out. This video is for people who just like watching my content. When you first make the switch from any setting over to gyro, the best tip is to do it with scope on, or scope only. Do not do the full-fledged. You don't want to go 0 to 60 on this, and the reason why you just start with the scope on, it's all about getting used to how the gyro actually works when it comes to controlling recoil with gyro, as well as the actual movement, tracking targets, whether you're going to be swiping, one of your fingers on the screen when transitioning to targets, and then when you're firing. Those are two different settings, which again, it all ties in. We're going to break that down right after the tips and tricks. But that's the number one tip, though, I'd say, is start with scope on. It will make it much more easier. All right, so here we go. Tip number 2. This is don't use a phone case, especially for those of you that are first starting out. When you do remove it, it just feels a little bit different. It's like you're closer to your device in kind of like a sick way. But yeah, so don't use a phone case, and you'll thank me later. All right, here's tip number 3, and this is training ground versus battlegrounds. Where you're going to be spending a lot of your time when you're first trying to dial down or dial in your sensitivities, the free look, movement without fire, movement with fire, the gyro ADS sensitivity, again, which we're going to break down here in a little bit. You have to understand there's a huge difference from when you're hitting a target, even if it's a moving target in the training ground, versus when you're actually on the battlegrounds. So that is the biggest thing, is understanding the difference between the training ground and the battlegrounds. Utilizing the arcade, so you don't have to worry about destroying your KD, destroying your rank. And like I said, once you start playing gyro enough, I'd say within a week of playing, maybe even less, you'll know whether you have to up your sensitivity or lower it based on how you are tracking your moving targets and actually using the gyro. All right, so here we go, fam. This is the 4th and final tip, and this actually has to do with the settings. So what a perfect time to transition from the 4th tip going into the settings breakdown. So this is basically removing the training wheels when you're going from no gyro and you're transitioning or switching over to gyro. This is the ADS sensitivity. This is the one where it says affects the sensitivity of the camera when the screen is swiped while firing. Can be used to keep the barrel down. Other than the third-person no-scope and the first-person no-scope, all these settings should be on 1%. The red dot, the 2, 3, 4, 6, and the 8 scope, go ahead and drop that down to 1%. Meaning, if you have gyro on, whether it's scope on or full gyro, if these settings are all 1%, when you first start using gyro, you're naturally not going to go ahead and start tilting your phone down to control recoil. When you first use it, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to slide your finger down like you've been playing this game the whole time in order to control recoil. What's going to end up happening is you're not going to be able to control it just using your finger. And it'll almost naturally happen very, very quickly by using this fourth tip. You'll naturally start tilting your phone down. As you guys, of course, can see on the hand cam, you'll naturally start tilting that phone down in order to control that recoil. This is probably the most important out of all. Well, I mean, all the tips are good, if I do say so myself. But this fourth tip is something I wish I knew first starting out, because when I first started gyro, all I was doing, I was messing around with my gyro settings, and it wasn't until later where I went ahead and dropped these down to 1%, because it's like I was controlling the recoil with my gyro, but I was also naturally pulling my thumb down, and that was messing up all of my settings. So you'll thank me later. Drop your red dot through your 8x down to 1%. All right, so here we go. Camera affects the sensitivity of the camera when the screen is swiped without firing. Those are the two key words right there. Without firing. This has nothing, these settings right here have absolutely nothing to do with recoil. This just has to do with movement, whether you're ADS'd or whether you're looking at your character in third person or in first person. This has to do with movement. Just because you're using gyro, that doesn't mean that it's a no-no to still control your character by swiping your finger on the screen. You can still do that. It is okay. So so for example, if you have, say, a 4x and you're looking at a building, and then you see that a guy, instead of him being up on the 5th floor, he's really down on the 1st floor. Instead of tilting your phone down, because you just have to reposition anyway, instead of tilting your phone down to control the positioning, you can just go ahead and just swipe your finger down, like you normally would. So as long as you're holding your phone steady, you're not necessarily activating the gyro, you can still swipe and look around. But yeah, so these are very, very important. And again, it's okay. Just because you're using gyro doesn't mean you're never going to use your fingers to swipe your screen to control your character. All right, so here we go, fam. This is the bread and butter. This is the gyroscope. Nice. We just got a member. Thank you, Growly. Okay, so this is the gyroscope. When the gyroscope is activated, there we go. The sensitivity of the tilt camera controls can be adjusted. Again, everyone's settings are going to be different. I'll go ahead and quickly break down mine, the thought process behind it, and how some of these tips and these ideas you can use to help better your transition along. So the third person no scope, you'll notice that is set to 200%, which is actually lower than red dot 2x, 3x, even, or it's right at the same where my 4x is. But the third person no scope, the reason why it is set at 200% is because one thing you don't want to do, especially when you're first making the switch over to gyro, is this is what this sensitivity, the third person no scope sensitivity, is basically the overall sensitivity of your phone when you're just looking at your character, when you're moving, when you're doing anything. When you have this set, for example, the 400%, the slightest touch, your camera is going to react, or your gyroscope is going to react. Just the slightest little touch. So unless you have a very, very, very steady hand, I would highly recommend you do not run your gyro at 400%. Again, everyone's are going to be different, but especially people first starting out, you're going to be so shaky, you're going to be all over the place. And if it's so shaky to the point to where if you see an enemy off in the distance, you won't be able to see him, because your camera, I mean, it's just the entire game is going to be moving all over the place, and you're going to be so focused on just trying to keep your phone steady. It'll be super shaky. People can get headaches. It's a big mess. So again, just find, the best setting, like I always say, find the best setting for you. But definitely starting out, I'd play around with it. But yeah, 400 is a little bit too much for most people. And the other settings where I have my red dot 315, my 2x at 270, 3x at 255, and I have my 4x down to 200%. And you see my 6, and I also have my 8 set to 12%. And this is just trial and error. This is what is best for me, for my sensitivity. All of these settings, I'm able to track my shots, especially when there's like an enemy like running across, you know, say from point A over to point B, going right across the screen. You want to be able to lead your shots and, you know, be landing those, you know, whether it's 50 meters away or whether it's going to go ahead and be 150 meters away. Again, after you play gyro for about a week, you'll be able to know whether you need to up or down, or go dial up or dial down sensitivity. I'd recommend doing it within the 5%. So go up 5% or down 5%. So whether you want something a little bit more sensitive, you're trying to move your phone and you see your swing around way too much, go 5% sensitivity up. Let's say you're tapping your phone and you're just going way too far over the target. You want to go ahead and dial down your sensitivity, go down 5%. But yeah, that's the overall gyro sensitivity. I really hope that you're able to find this helpful. And again, the transition is amazing, especially when it comes to overall accuracy, performance, improving those CQC engagements. And the most important thing, of course, is your ADS, that recoil, being able to control a 4x spray, being able to control a 6x spray. These are huge. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you found it helpful, make sure you go ahead and drop a like. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. But until the next sensitivity video, this has been Riggs from Riggs Gaming.